The sun had barely risen over the dusty plains near the town of Benevento when King Pyrrhus of Epirus stood at the edge of his camp, watching his army prepare for battle. He had come to Italy chasing glory, determined to humble the rising power of Roman Republic. His victories had already earned him fame, but at a cost so heavy that people had begun to whisper about Pyrrhic victories. Still, Pyrrhus believed this battle would be different. This would be the one that broke Rome. Behind him, towering and restless, stood his most terrifying weapon, war elephants. Massive, armored beasts imported from distant lands, they had shattered Roman lines before. Soldiers both feared and admired them. Pyrrhus himself trusted them more than his own infantry. To him, they were not just animals, they were the key to victory. Across the field, the Roman army was already forming ranks, disciplined and calm. Their commander, Manius Curius Dentatus, had studied Pyrrhus carefully. He knew the elephants were the heart of Pyrrhus's strategy, and he had no intention of letting them decide the battle again. This time, the Romans came prepared. The battle began with the thunder of shields and the clash of spears. Pyrrhus's phalanx advanced like a moving wall of iron, pushing the Roman lines backwards step by step. For a moment, it seemed like history was repeating itself. Roman soldiers struggled under the pressure, their formation bending under the relentless force. Then came the signal. With a roar that echoed across the battlefield, Pyrrhus unleashed his elephants. The ground trembled as they charged forward, their tusks fitted with blades, their backs carrying archers and handlers. Dust filled the air, and the Roman front line braced for impact. But instead of fear, something unexpected spread among the Roman ranks: control. Suddenly, strange sounds pierced the chaos, trumpets blaring, horns screaming, and flaming projectiles soaring through the air. The Romans had devised a plan. They aimed not to fight the elephants, but to break them. The first elephant faltered. A flaming javelin struck near its face, and the beast shrieked in panic. Another was struck by a volley of missiles, its handler losing control. One by one, the elephants began to panic, their formation collapsing into confusion. The proud weapons of Pyrrhus turned unpredictable, wild, uncontrollable. And then disaster struck. Instead of crushing the Romans, the elephants turned back. Terrified and enraged, they stampeded into Pyrrhus's own lines. Soldiers who had stood firm moments before now scattered in fear. The phalanx broke apart as massive bodies tore through their ranks. Shields shattered, spears snapped, and screams replaced the rhythm of battle. Pyrrhus watched in horror. What had been his greatest strength became his greatest weakness in a matter of moments. He shouted orders, trying to restore control, but the chaos was unstoppable. His army, once disciplined and proud, was now collapsing under the weight of its own weapon. Sensing the shift, the Romans surged forward, their lines tightened, their momentum unstoppable. What had once been a defensive struggle now became a decisive counterattack. They pushed into the broken Greek lines, driving them back with renewed confidence. The tide had turned completely. As the dust settled and the sun climbed higher, the battlefield told a brutal story. Pyrrhus's army was in retreat. The king stood silently, his dreams of conquering Rome slipping through his fingers. He had faced the Romans before and paid dearly, but this time it was not just loss, it was humiliation. His strategy, his pride, his faith in the elephants, all had betrayed him. The Battle of Benevento marked the end of his campaign in Italy. Soon after, Pyrrhus would abandon his ambitions and leave the land he had fought so hard to claim. Rome, battered but unbroken, stood stronger than ever. And the lesson of that day echoed through history. Sometimes the weapons you trust the most can become the very force that destroys you. If you enjoyed this story and want more intense thrillers and suspenseful adventures, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and share it with friends who love a good mystery. Your support helps me bring you more stories just like this one.